While we're waiting for Coach Staley, who will be here at 3:45, a couple of housekeeping items. South Carolina will be bringing in two players, Alexis Jennings and Taisha Harris. They will come in after Coach, and the South Carolina locker room is open until 4:15. Their practice time is from 4:30 to 6, with the first 15 minutes available to the media. My apologies to those of you who have been here all day, but just want to remind everybody to silence their cell phones and electronic devices. No flash photography is allowed in the interview room. If you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone to get to you. We'll get it to you as quick as we can. Identify yourself both by name and affiliation, at least for your first question. And then once the student athletes are in here, we have multiple people, just designate who the question is for. To my left is South Carolina head coach Dawn Staley. We'll start with just a brief opening statement, then we'll go to questions.
I'm super excited to be in the Sweet 16. Looking forward to playing Baylor tomorrow.
So we'll go to questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, in the fifth row on the left.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Coach, ask him about it. If your team takes on your personality, can you see that in Kim's team as well? And does your team take on your personality?
Does my team take on? Probably not. They're a lot looser than I am or have ever been as a player. Kim's team, I think at times they take on her personality, but I think we're so far removed from this generation, that you only see bits and pieces of it. They only can take so much of the old school mentality because they're themselves. And for us coaches, we have to figure out ways in which to get them to play more like us a lot more often.
Over here on the left on the second row.
Obviously, your team has changed a lot since you faced Baylor earlier in the season. What can you take from that game into this game to kind of help get over the hump?
You just have to take the experience of playing, someone as big as they are. I think their length and their girth it's a real thing. And sometimes when you're watching them on film, they don't look as big as they do when you actually have to play against them. I feel like we're a lot more healthy than we were at that stage of the game. And we didn't talk about, our players who were, trying to get back closer to 100%, but we were not 100% by any means. So we've played all season long, probably ever since December. We've been more healthy than not. So we're looking forward to having a healthy roster and, seeing where we stack up and where we improve from a couple of months ago.
On the left on the third row.
Rick Henry, WIS-TV. Don, as you prepared for this rematch with Baylor and you look at them, study the video, do they look the same, or are they playing better than they were when they played you in December?
I think they're playing better. Obviously, she knows what she wants. Their playbook isn't huge. they're just very calculated and efficient with what they want, and they force you to stop them doing the things that they want to do. I think we're better. I think we're a better basketball team at this stage of the game. I don't think we will, have the same game plan, because the game plan back in December was we started out in the zone because we just didn't feel like we could, match up with them with that current health of our basketball team. We're healthy, so we're going to fly around and play the way we've been playing over the past few weeks.
Front row on the left.
Coach Bruce Keatson with Baylor Radio. When Baylor beat you earlier, that put your record at 4-4. Then you went on to win 13 of 14. After that, I know you said you got healthy was a big deal, but have you also improved in different some areas of play too? And could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I think just, the first few games of the season, I think people fail to realize that we had probably a third of our team that were new. 3 freshmen, 1 grad transfer, 1 transfer in Taya Cooper, and we just try to instill some chemistry in what we're doing. That's actually more than a third of our team, and they had to play an integral role in our success. We had, a couple of new starters who were just trying to figure out how to play more minutes and play a bigger role for our basketball team. So I think the chemistry is much better. I think our players understand how we need to play and what they need to do in order for us to be successful. So I think that's the reason why we went on, such a run, and we got healthy.
Before we take our next question, I want to take a minute to just introduce the South Carolina Sports Information Contact, Diane Cavell. Diane, if you raise your hand over there. Okay. Additional questions for Coach? Over here on the fourth row on the left.
Chad Conine, Waco Tribune Herald. Don, is there anything from your run 2 years ago? I know you were a favorite then, a #1 seed then. Is there anything that you draw on from then, either as being a 4 seed, playing a 1 seed, or just surviving and advancing?
At this stage of the game, it is, no matter what the number is beside your name, you have to play. You have to game plan, and you have to play, because anything can happen at this stage of the game. So, we're just going to play. We're going to fly around out there and, let the chips fall where they may. But there's a huge difference in being the #1 seed and being a #4 seed as far as it's just different. We were a 5 seed at one point, I believe, in 2012. Yes, 5 seed. 2012. So it's the first time being the 4 seed and having to play the #1 team in the country. So that's the biggest difference. You don't usually see the #1 team for us till a lot later on. So we'll be challenged in that way. And, I'd rather play the big ones up front. If you can knock them down, then everything seems to be a little easier, not a lot easier, but a little easier.
The front row on the second.
The other day, you sent out a message on Twitter thanking Holly Warlick for what she'd done at Tennessee. Why did you want to send that message? And I guess, what are your thoughts on her legacy?
Holly's a good friend of mine. I've been in this league for a long time. She's one that's been real. She says what she has to say. And I just think that sometimes we lose sight of the contributions that people give to their respective universities and programs, and also just our game in general. She is, probably the last part of Coach Summitt's legacy. And if you really look at her record, I know, they've had some games in which that slipped away over the past few years, but if you look at her overall record, I think 2 Elite Eights, 2 or 3. She's won 2 or 3 SEC titles. I just feel like someone in our game, you have to respect what she's done for it. And I'm not an administrator at Tennessee. I'm just someone who has been around women's basketball for a long time, and I know success when I see it. And certainly her resume, you can match up against the very best of our game as far as coaches.
Any more questions? Right here in the second row.
Hey, Coach. Congrats on making it here. Travis Lynn, Women's Hoops World. You had mentioned changing up defensively from the previous matchup with Baylor, but obviously their strength is kind of that front line, and it seems like now not only, as you mentioned, being healthier, but also just the development of some of the younger players. You guys have a Swiss Army knife of combinations of bigs you can kind of throw at them. Have you seen some different ways, just looking at the film and looking at the development of your team down the stretch here, to attack them and maybe just throw some stuff at them they didn't see last time?
Yeah, we're a team in which I think our players, both the bigs and our perimeter players, they have a better understanding of how we need to play. I think they're locked into our game plan. I do feel like we can do some things to, get good shots. Obviously, if you take away the first quarter, I think the game is, pretty much not even, but, 5-point discrepancy. So we got to look at, what went right in that particular game and build on that. But, I'm excited. A lot of people, we have no pressure. The pressure, I know all coaches come up here and say the psychological thing, but we really don't have any pressure. They're the number one team in the country. They've played extremely well all season long. We're just trying to get it into a situation where we keep it close and put them in situations they very rarely have been familiar with this particular season. They're a tremendously good basketball team that have it going on both inside and outside. We talk about their front line, but their guards, are players who have anchored them, some nights. So they were well versed all the way around, but we're going to play. We're going to give it our best shot and see where that lands us.
Any more questions for Coach? Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Alexis Jennings and Taisha Harris will be in here at 4:05. Okay, to my left are Alexis Jennings and Taisha Harris. Since we have both of them up here, please make sure you designate who your questions are for. And we'll go ahead and get started. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, up on the left.
Brad Muller, South Carolina Radio. How do you guys, as for either of you guys, how do you think you guys are a different team now than perhaps at the beginning of the year when you played Baylor?
Alexis, you want to start?
Sure. I would just say, you know, we're more confident and everybody's coming into their roles. They understand their roles now. And, you know, we have an emphasis of competing now. And that's been the main focus for, you know, most of the tournament right now. And, you know, we're just coming into our own. You know, our chemistry's flowing. Everybody understands. And when everybody is on the same page, I feel like, you know, we can be unstoppable.
Taisha?
Just to piggyback off of what Lex said, we're just finally gelling together, and we know what we like to do for each other. And just we had to overcome injuries early on in the season too, and I think everybody's back fully healthy, and it's going to be an exciting game.
Questions? Right here in the second row.
Alexis, in the first go-around with Baylor, you guys obviously had some difficulty with that front line. What have you discussed as, I mean, without, you know, giving away company secrets or whatever, but what have y'all discussed in terms of like, okay, you know, we're healthier now, some of the younger bigs have more experience now. Have y'all looked at maybe here's some things we can do differently, or we have this new look we can kind of throw at them as far as means of attacking that?
Yeah, I think our emphasis is just to be physical with them. You know, it's going to be a very physical game, and we feel like as long as we go out there and compete, you know, like you said, everybody is healthy now. You know, I feel like we're in a better position to give them our best shot.
Any more questions? Over here in the front row on the left.
Bruce Geeson with Baylor Radio. Ladies, I asked Coach the same thing in those when Baylor beat you earlier. You were 4-4, then you won 13 of the next 14. What's the big reason for that, besides just saying you being healthy?
Can you repeat it?
What's the difference in the start of the season and the last 14 games where you're on a roll?
Just to reflect on what we just said, just gelling, just we emphasize a lot off the court, just being around each other a lot and having a lot of team activities just to get to know each other deeper. And I think on a deeper level, just knowing each other deeper, we trust each other more, and we have more confidence going onto the court. I feel like people knew that we had each other back, and we had a bigger purpose of just not just basketball, just having a sisterhood of all things. And I think that helped us as the season went on.
One more question, please. Did Baylor do anything to surprise you in that first meeting?
Taisha, you want to start with that?
I don't think they did anything to surprise us, really. I think it was just more of us just not being ready and just not having a full team there yet. But other than it surprised us, no, I don't think nothing really surprised us.
Alexis?
I mean, I would just say the same thing Ty said. I mean, nothing surprised us. You know, they're a very good Baylor team. And, I mean, I would just base it solely off of us not being completely healthy. You know, when everyone's not healthy, we're not able to play to our strengths necessarily, you know.
Fourth row on the left.
Chad Conine, Waco Tribune Herald. Alexis, you guys play a lot of players. Baylor has the potential to play a lot of players. How will depth kind of shape the game tomorrow, do you think?
I think depth will be a very key component to the game. You know, just the fact that we have more players who can come in and come out in exchange. You know, we'll be able to play a lot of people, and we know they're going to be ready. So I think that's just good. And we've been playing a lot of people throughout the entire season, so they won't shy away from this moment because this is a big moment, and I feel like everybody's prepared for it.
One last time, any more questions? Over in the front row again.
In the first meeting between the two, you guys said you were going to be physical, pack the paint on it. Juicy hit a three really early in that, like 10, 15 seconds in, and then they had some success from the perimeter. Did that make you kind of change the way you were playing, or how big a factor was that in that big first quarter? Because it was pretty even second, third, and fourth quarter.
Alexis, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about like the front court, and I think their back court is just as important. And so this matchup now that we're focusing on both sides, like we know their guards can contribute just as much as a post play. It's kind of just getting the other people who don't really score that much to score more.
Hello. Just to piggyback off of Ty, I think that, just allowing ourselves to put complete and total pressure on each and every player out there. We understand that everybody out there is going to be a threat. I just feel like our pressure needs to be similar to Belmont in the Florida State game as well. As long as we apply a lot of pressure, I feel like we can be able to disrupt them.
And like you said, putting 4 quarters together.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Get some rest. It was a tough day today.